Next from Chicago, our contributing correspondent Jeff Berkowitz talks with Chicago television journalist Charles Thomas. We hear Mr. Thomas discuss a number of the policy issues currently impacting state government, such as pension reform, and we hear his thoughts on a number of the candidates running for governor in 2014. This runs about 30 minutes.
You're watching Public Affairs. Berkowitz is my name, and politics is our game. Charles, would you get serious? We got to get serious now, okay? Stop screwing around. Look, if you're watching this show, you probably want to know, because it's September 17th, and Daley bailed. You might see this a few days later, you might even see it a week later, but you've all heard that Bill Daley said, "Oh, the enormity of it all. I suddenly realized to run for governor, it's a big deal." And guess what? I'm 65, and so for the next, he was worried he was going to win, and then for 5 or 9 years until he was 74. Charles, you're laughing. Of course not. Yeah. Charles is laughing because he thought it was such utter BS.
Yes,
you know
definitely.
Charles, well, why did Bill Daley bail?
Because he couldn't win.
That was it? He lied?
No, well,
Daley looked at everybody and all of you guys from the Chicago media, and he lied right to your face?
He had to say something, but he realized
he could have just said, I couldn't win.
Nobody,
why couldn't he say that?
He could have, but that would sound kind of lame, wouldn't it? Because he just started the campaign like a month ago.
Well, then why? Well, then why didn't he keep going? I don't. You're supposed to be able to explain this stuff to us. You've been doing it for 6 years.
I think
you've been doing journalism for 40 years.
None of the politicians in Cook County, the Cook County Regular Democratic Organization, would not endorse him. He was going to, at the time that he made his
swan song. It doesn't matter. That's outdated.
He was going to lose the state Democratic Party endorsement.
It doesn't matter.
Pat Quinn has been endorsed by, I think it's 2/3 or 3/4 of the county chairman in Illinois, and so, Bill Daley had not opened not a single campaign office. Not one in Chicago, a purely dedicated campaign office.
He had 6 months until the primary.
No, he doesn't. That isn't a lot of time. He had to organize the entire state. The other problem he didn't know how to do.
Why didn't he open an office?
Because he didn't have the money.
He said he raised $1 million.
But that's not enough to raise offices.
How much should he have raised? How much should he have raised by now?
Well, I don't know. But
why couldn't he raise money? If Daley
because
can't
I
raise
think
money?
People realized they would look at the internal polling that they do, and they would find out that he really didn't have the kind of voter support that I think he was hoping he would have, because people were so tired of Pat Quinn. But Pat Quinn is not benign. Pat Quinn's been out there working, and he's been making deals and talking to people. And Bill Daley was finding that he just simply wasn't having the impact that he wanted to have. That plus the Daley name downstate is absolutely toxic.
Why?
Because of older people remember, older Democrats, I should say, remember the iron fist that Richard J. Daley held over state Democratic politics.
And so they didn't like the fact that Richard J. Daley, they still remember this guy, the older guy.
Older voters
the guy
still
who became
remember
mayor in 1955 and left in 1976. Yeah. There are people alive who remember this stuff?
Alive. You were alive. You were alive when Richard J. Daley was mayor. And you hear the stories from your parents and your grandparents. And then the younger Democrats, they thought of Bill Daley as being this rich banker. This rich banker who led the country into the Great Recession.
They really thought he did that? He worked for Bill Clinton.
Well, younger Democrats, older Democrats.
He worked for Obama.
And then you have people right here in the metropolitan area who hear the Daley name disparaged almost daily by Rahm Emanuel, when he talks about the parking and how the schools were left in such horrible shape.
And all the murders and all that stuff. That's all Richard M. Daley's fault.
That's not Richard M. But Richard M. has the parking meters, the privatization. Anytime you want to drive your car to Indiana on the Skyway, you got to pay $4.50.
That's your fault.
Well, they're going to look. They're going to think Daley. They're going to think Daley. I think he just had a really tough time.
And he didn't anticipate that. Even though he's part of the Daley family and he should know politics, he just didn't anticipate that.
Maybe he didn't. Maybe he didn't anticipate that.
It was like a big revelation. It was an epiphany, so to speak.
Well, whatever. But I think he was going to have a really tough time beating Pat Quinn in a Democratic primary. And I think that is the reason that he didn't continue this race. I don't think it was that he was afraid of winning.
So it's just one big lie.
Well,
and you think politicians...
You called it that.
Well, what would you call it? You just base... I mean, don't be a...
don't use words like
don't be a
pejorative
wuss.
words like
don't
that.
Be a wuss. You said you wouldn't be a wuss.
Well, I told you also I wasn't going to get myself in any trouble here today.
So you
Jeffrey.
said he lied, but you just didn't use those words.
I didn't use those words.
He's such a wuss.
I just think he needed. I
he's
think
a good wuss, but he's a wuss.
He needed an escape hatch, and he used this enormity thing to basically bail. Yeah.
Sounds like a phallic symbol of some type.
Well, I'm not going to go there.
You don't want to go there.
I'm not going there.
Okay, so Bill, we love you, and we hope you'll come on the show because I have to believe.
You look at Bill.
Look, it's somewhat believable. Charles, you're not.
I thought
quite
I was
there
the
yet.
guest. I get to talk here.
Yeah, okay.
You know, I think that if you look at Bill Daley's resume, you can go anywhere in the country, and you're not going to find a resume, a person with that kind of public service resume. Anywhere in the country,
it's fantastic.
Any candidate. I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
if you look at the paper, what this guy is on paper, I mean, come on.
But it doesn't impress people, is what
No,
you're
I
saying.
don't think it's that. I think the
Or
timing
the
is
baggage
horrible.
of the Daily
The
Name,
baggage of the Daily Name.
parking meter.
In Illinois.
The parking meter
You take that
stuff,
same
yeah.
resume to Kansas, and they go, whoa, this guy's got it going on. But you take it to Illinois, and it's a problem. Particularly now.
Kansas, the land of Dorothy and Oz and all that stuff. In Illinois, they get right down to it.
Yeah.
So they love so the Democrats in Illinois love Pat Quinn and don't like Bill Daley.
No, right now they got Pat Quinn. I mean, Pat Quinn's the governor, and I think Pat Quinn is a politician to be reckoned with because he knows how to play the game.
So, and who do the Republicans have? Let's see if we can get that up. The Republican candidates. Maybe we can get that graphic up.
You got a graphic?
Well, we don't really need a graphic.
I don't get to see the graphic.
Tell us about the 4 Republican candidates.
Well, you've got Dan Rutherford, who is the treasurer,
State
treasurer. He is the only candidate among the 4 Republicans who's ever won a statewide
office. And Dan will tell you that every minute.
Every minute. Then
there we go. There's our graphic. Rauner, Dillard, Brady, and Rutherford.
See, I can't see that. I can't. You won't let me see the graphic.
I just told you. I'm just helping you.
Yeah, well,
we're helping you.
But I think that's a bad order because I think that you want to talk about Dillard, who is
okay.
the former chief of staff.
You want to start with Rutherford?
We did Rutherford.
We did Rutherford.
He's the treasurer, and he's the only guy
so
who's
you
ever
start
won
with
statewide.
Rutherford. Okay. Then you want to go to Dillard?
Dillard, who used to be the chief of staff for Jim Edgar, former Governor Jim Edgar.
You're mocking him.
No, I'm not. I'm saying it the way he says it.
And he said that. Well,
he says that's the way he says it because
it's a big deal,
Jim Edgar is held in such high esteem
and he is,
in Illinois. He's the
isn't
only
he?
governor of late who hasn't gone to jail.
But
Right.
seriously.
So he's St. Jim.
But isn't that true?
St. Jim Edgar.
He left office
Yes.
with like a 70% rating,
Yes,
popularity.
yes.
And it still might even be that now.
Kirk Dillard was his chief of staff, and that is why Kirk Dillard tells everybody you should vote for him.
So now, you're continuing to mock
the other guy is Bill Brady, Senator Bill Brady from Bloomington. He's run, what, 6 times?
No, 3 times.
3 times.
26, 2010, and now.
Yeah. And he's lost.
And he was the nominee in 2010.
The nominee in 2010.
26, he was sort of the spoiler.
He only won the nomination by like 200 votes, though. He only won
Right.
the nomination by 200 votes over
Dillard.
Dillard.
Right.
But he is
And
a
he
guy.
lost, and he didn't lose by much to Quinn.
Now there's a guy.
He didn't lose by much to Quinn.
There's a guy who does not give up. He just doesn't
Well, that's
give up.
good.
He keeps coming back. I mean, unlike Bill Daley, this guy has perseverance. And I
That's
think
good.
that
Don't you think
is
that's
Bill
good?
Daley's, that is Bill Brady's stock and trade.
It's good, though, isn't it?
And the last guy
Okay.
rides a motorcycle.
Bruce Rauner.
Bruce Rauner.
From Winnetka, right over
Bruce
near
Rauner.
Winnetka.
He's got more money than, I don't know,
You told me, $700 million, did you
something
say?
like that. He has never really given us a full disclosure.
Where did you hear $700 million?
I have heard that from other Republicans. This guy's really rich. If you thought Andy McKenna, who ran for governor,
He's got more money.
They say this guy's got more money than
Should we
that.
drive over from Skokie to his house in Winnetka after the show
And just sit out front and just
absorb the wealth?
absorb
Bruce,
the wealth.
Charles Thomas and Jeff Berkowitz are absorbing the wealth, sitting in front of your house.
But
in
he is the
Winnetka.
quintessential outsider.
I used to live in Winnetka. Did you know that? I used to live
He is the guy who's never held public office, never run for public office. He doesn't need the money. He doesn't need to steal from us.
He's doing it because he loves the state and wants to give back.
He wants to give back, and I think that
And he wants the glory of being governor.
Well,
he wants
whatever.
the glory of
but
being
there's,
governor.
there's glory that comes with it, but
It's a headache.
he wants to
getting-
fix
okay.
Illinois, he says,
Okay.
and he has no motivation to steal anything. There's not.
Right.
There,
If you have $700 million, you don't need
yeah.
Who needs
like
another
Rob
dollar? Yeah.
Rob Blagojevich, well, this thing
He
is
needed
golden
money
or whatever.
Rod needed money to buy a suit. Rauner's got enough suits. He doesn't.
Rauner's
he doesn't
got
need
enough
another
suits,
suit.
exactly. So that's the
So
feel.
that's the thumbnail. You've now given us the thumbnail.
I mean,
now
you know the thing about it.
Who's going to win the Republican primary?
I don't know. I can't
Give
tell
me
you
your
that.
best shot.
But I will say this: I think they have 4 guys who could be the governor of Illinois.
Who each could beat Pat Quinn? You're telling me?
I don't know about that. See, I think what's going to I think
that's an important question,
I think this
Charles.
election is going to be determined by one thing that will happen or not happen.
Okay.
If the pension problem is solved, is resolved, the $100 billion unfunded pension debt, if it's resolved, I think Pat Quinn's going to be very difficult to beat by a Republican. If it's not resolved, I think he is very beatable by a Republican. Okay. And the interesting thing about solving the pension debt problem is that it's got to be resolved not to the satisfaction of the House and the Senate. It has to be resolved to the satisfaction of Wall Street, the ratings agencies.
And how will we know if
S&P,
the ratings of Illinois
Moody's.
start going up? If they start upgrading the bond ratings of Illinois bonds, then we'll know it's solved.
It's solved, yes. And I think they'll make statements.
You heard it first
well,
here
I mean,
from Charles.
I said
Charles,
it. I
Charles
said
knows
it.
it.
I said it. If this is solved to the satisfaction of Wall Street, Pat Quinn's going to be tough to beat. If it's not, see, they can come up with some kind of solution, and the Wall Street guys say, "Well, that's not going to work."
Thumbs down.
Thumbs down. Pat's got a problem.
Okay.
The governor's got a problem, but it's got to be
Here's
solved.
something. Why doesn't Pat Quinn just bribe the rating agencies no matter what?
Well, that's the Chicago way.
Yeah, isn't that the way it works?
No,
doesn't it?
Pat Quinn
Or
has
Rahm
proven.
could do it. Rahm and Pat could get together and bribe.
I don't think there's anybody.
The guys, and then the city and the state would look good, and then they'd both get reelected.
Yeah, but I think that Pat Quinn, one thing that he has done is that he has brought some, at least from what we know, he's brought some ethics to this government.
Come on.
I mean,
you mean like those deals he made with the labor unions in the last election so he could win?
Well, come on. I mean,
so
he
gave him
talking
something
about,
and they gave him money.
I don't think
all
he's
that.
gone out and he's tried to sell a Senate seat or
damn close.
$25,000.
Didn't he go out there and he talked and he brought this guy
stuff.
who knew the guys at the unions, and remember that whole story, and
Well, I mean,
worked
the
it all
unions,
out.
they make deals too. I mean, you make deals with the unions. I
Oh,
guess.
so it's okay if you make deals. See, Rod, just a slight digression. Rod didn't know how to sell the seat like everybody else does. He didn't really try to do anything that nobody else does. He just didn't know how to do it in a way he wouldn't get caught. Don't you think that's true?
I couldn't tell you.
If Rod said, look, the President of the United States said,
I mean,
the President of the United States, through the union boss, you remember the story, passed the word initially, and through Rahm, to Rod, that he wanted Valerie Jarrett to be appointed. Remember that? And you remember, and we know this, it's all on wiretap, et cetera. Okay, and testimony. And so the President says, I want Valerie Jarrett, and Rod said, what am I going to get by passing the word back through the union boss? And then the answer came, the President, you will have the President's gratitude and appreciation. Now, you and I know that means that Rod could have whatever he wanted. The President's just not going to say, we'll make you head of change to win or
Jeff,
something.
I don't know.
You're not going to sign it?
I don't know this stuff.
Like, were you asleep during this trial? Did you go to the Rod?
Yeah, I didn't go to the trial, but I read in on it. But
okay,
I mean, I
didn't
know
all this stuff happen that I'm saying?
I know what he was convicted of doing. He was convicted. I know what he was convicted.
The second trial. First trial, he was just convicted of lying to the FBI.
Well,
nothing.
he was convicted. I know what he was convicted of in the second.
So you're going on the second trial.
Well, I have to.
You don't
what
have
else
an
can I go
opinion.
to?
This is the way
I mean,
we
just
do it,
because this
objective
stuff comes up
journalism.
as testimony doesn't necessarily mean that.
No, but don't you think? I know he was convicted.
Yeah, he was convicted.
But don't you think he was doing what the President wanted to do?
No, I don't think you can drag the president into this.
The President didn't want to have Valerie Jarrett there? The President didn't want to have Valerie Jarrett there?
Guilty of something?
Yeah.
What?
He's guilty of attempting.
See, I'm not going there because I haven't seen him indicted.
No, he wasn't charged, yeah.
Right.
Well, who's going to indict the President? You think that guy, who was it, the U.S. Attorney, had the balls to do that? Can we say that? Yeah. Do you think he had the balls? Here, you got that ball? Here, okay, I'll use this. Here's 2 balls. Do you think the U.S. Attorney had the balls to indict the President? Can't we say that? We can't say. Okay.
I guess you can. I mean, you know, but
do you think he did? Do you think?
No,
do you think
I don't
the U.S.
think
attorney
that,
would do, if you were a U.S. attorney, would you
I
have
think
indicted the
if
president of the United States, even if you thought there was the fix was in, even if you thought the fix was in?
There's probable cause for him to
you would have
committed
indicted
a crime.
the president of the United States.
If in fact he
you have to go to
crime.
Eric Holder, Eric Holder is appointed by the president. Patrick Fitzgerald, who is the U.S. attorney.
Jeff. I think now's the time to pivot, as they say. Pivot.
Okay.
And
Charles, this is your show. This is
you
your
got
show.
other stuff down here you want to talk about.
This is your show. Okay. This is your show. Okay.
Yeah.
A little segue there. We call this a segue into Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Because in 2004, I know you were just trailing around with Andy Shaw. You weren't quite the political reporter then, but you were covering stuff. Yeah. And you remember Barack was running for the U.S. Senate, first in the Democratic primary, then in the general election.
Yeah.
So he's running in 2002 to 2004 in the Democratic primary.
Well, 2004.
Well, the primary is in 2004, but
can I tell you a story? It's really interesting.
You may do whatever you like. This is
It's
your show. This is the Charles Thomas Show.
August,
Public Affairs with Charles Thomas.
Okay, it's August 2004.
Yes. Okay.
And this is a week before Barack Obama gives that speech in Boston that thrust him onto the national stage. So he was running against Jack Ryan, who was a Republican at the time, who has another story. But Jack Ryan said something about something, and so Andy Shaw at the time was a political reporter, but he was off.
What's the date roughly here?
August 2004.
Wait, so it's after the primary. Oh, right around the time between
the
when
convention.
When Ryan said, "I have a problem," but they hadn't yet.
No, that hadn't even come up yet. That hadn't come up
August
yet.
2004. No,
that hadn't
you're
come
getting
up
the
yet.
dates confused.
No, that hadn't come up yet.
It happened in June 2004.
What the Ryan problem?
The Ryan problem happens in June 25th,
probably,
2004.
but whatever. But I have to call Barack Obama because we have to have. We need to do an interview with Barack Obama, so I call his headquarters, and he answered the phone.
He used to do it for me too.
Yeah,
he used to do it for me. Okay.
So I say,
you make it sound like
I said, Senator,
only black guys can have
Senator Obama. We need to come. We need to come and talk to you about this. And he says, no problem. But can you meet me at my house?
What was it you wanted to talk to him about?
I can't remember
something.
But he
wants
says,
to meet you at his house.
Meet me at my house. I can't do it here at
Kenwood?
the office. Yeah, it was in it was in Hyde Park.
That was when he lived in Hyde Park.
So we go up to the house, and it's a row of 3 flats.
Nice little house.
Yeah, 3-story.
Michelle's there.
He lived in the middle
Michelle
flat.
was baking cookies or something.
Middle flat in the end building.
Okay.
So we get there, and the photographer and myself, we said, wow, this is a very middle class, working class kind of neighborhood for a guy who's running for U.S. Senate. Yeah. Wow. So we're sitting there in the car waiting, and we see him walking down the street, as Barack Obama walks, and he has on khakis.
He's got a nice gait to him. He has a nice
and
gait.
a short sleeve shirt. And all of a sudden we hear this racket at the house at the end of the block where he told us he lived.
All right. Okay.
And this very tall woman comes out with 2 small children.
Michelle?
Yeah.
Sasha?
One of
them
is she's virtually dragging.
Malia,
and
maybe.
She's got this scowl on her face. And she comes out and she goes down the stairs to the sidewalk, and she walks really fast. One kid's almost being dragged, and she hands him to him. and the photographer looked at me, and I looked at him and said, "Oh, I've been here before. This is you don't have child care.
We've both been here.
Yeah.
Yes,
you don't have child care.
Yeah, and you don't want to keep your wife waiting.
Yeah, and your wife is waiting.
Charles and I have both been there.
I've been there.
Yeah, I've been there.
So.
I've been there.
And we sort of, we did the interview, and we did the interview outside, and we just shot him from us, but he had these 2 little kids in the bottom. and then we went on about our business, and I just kind of like forgot that. I remembered the moment, but I forgot it. Then 4 years and 3 months later, he's standing in Grant Park, having been elected president, leader of the free world. I'm going, and I go back to that moment,
and
I said, my gosh.
This all happened in 4 years.
4 years and 3 months from having sweat and child care to being
be
leader of the free world. That's a great thing about America, man. Come on.
Is this a great country or what?
Is it a great country or what?
See,
come on.
We're like we can do this pantomime, almost like we can do it together. Is this a great
country or what?
All right. That's the show, folks. There's really, it can't get any better from here. So I think we're just going to go home. Charles got to be home early, okay?
Absolutely.
So we've got another 10 minutes or so, Charles. So
oh, really? Okay. So that's why you don't let me look back there.
We got another 10 minutes there, so you're going to have to stick it out.
Okay.
All right. So I was saying, I was going to ask before we got to that great. It's a good story.
Thank you. I thought it was.
In 2004, he's running in the Democratic primary. People think Dan Hines might win. They think Blair Hull might win. Blair Hull's spending $39 million. Barack's got $5 million. Hines is thought to be, you know, this big name, and he's like a machine guy, and he'd have the machine out there for him and all that. And Barack sweeps it, 55% to like Hines 24 second, and Hull's like nowhere, okay? And so people said, because it wasn't just the tremendous black vote that was out there for Barack, there was this tremendous white vote.
Well, sure, in the general election.
In the primary, he transcended race in the Democratic primary for the U.S. Senate in 2004. If he hadn't, there's no way he could have beat these white guys 55 to 23. If he just got out there and got like that 90% of that black vote and a spattering of the white vote, it would have been like he wins like 28-25. No. If you win 55-23, and that's what it was, he transcended race. There were blacks who were supporting him en masse, obviously, but there were large numbers of whites. And that's what he said to me when he was on this show, and we talked to how he was going to do this. He said, we're going to do well in every socioeconomic graphic, or whatever, demographic, okay? Did I get that right? Is that the Barack Obama?
Well, I mean, that's the story of his presidency.
Well, that's the question. So he transcended race, and he transcended politics in 2004, and then he ran in 2008, and he beat Hillary Clinton in the Democratic primary, which was tough. He beat John Edwards. It turned out it wasn't as tough as we thought. But so in 2008, running in the Democratic primary for President of the United States, is he still transcending race and politics, Barack Obama?
Your question?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think he did it more so in 2012.
Okay. So from 2008 to 2012, as President of the United States, you're saying he was still transcending race and politics. Yeah. And so remember that thing about the, you know, the guy who, was it Gates or who that little beer summit they had to have?
Sure.
And, you know, he said this guy was doing something wrong, and he kind of jumped the gun.
This is a police guy.
Yeah. He said like the guy was ganging up on him. It was about race, and was he still transcending race, or was he at that point? Because Barack would never get out front on race before.
Well, why can't he address the race issue? Why not? I mean, he can't do that? Why can't he do that? Why couldn't George Bush do that? Why can't Bill Clinton do that?
That was the point.
Why can't Ronald Reagan do that? Why can't any president do that? And I don't think he's done that.
Trayvon Martin.
Well, sure.
He says, Barack Obama says this, what was it, 4 or 5 months ago? Maybe it's 2 months ago.
Right.
Trayvon Martin could have been me 35 years ago. So Barack Obama, 52 as president or so, 35 years ago, he would have been 17.
Right.
Barack Obama would have been down on the ground pounding some other white guy and really pounding him, and then the white guy pulls out a gun and kills him. But Barack Obama could have been smashing the guy, and if the guy didn't have a gun,
what are you trying
to
say here, man?
I don't think Barack Obama could have been Trayvon Martin. I don't think he could have been Trayvon Martin.
I mean, you're saying that, you're telling us what, I guess Mr. Zimmerman testified. Trayvon Martin, unfortunately, is not there. That's what the jury found.
That's what the jury found.
But Trayvon Martin was not there to tell his side of the story.
But if it was, no.
I mean,
we know Trayvon Martin was beating
what is your point, though? What is your point?
Because Barack Obama wasn't the kind of guy ever, as far as I know, who would be pounding.
How do you know that?
Because I know. I had him on for 6 shows.
What does it? You had him on, but so what? How do you know that?
You don't think I know the guy?
You don't know if he were attacked, you don't know what he, what I do.
Remember, everybody said, does he have sharp elbows? Could he be mean? Could he be? They didn't even know if he could respond.
What is your point, Mr. Berkowitz? What is your point?
My point is, it's a bunch of BS.
What is?
That Trayvon Martin could have been.
You want to talk about the Trayvon Martin case with me? I can't help you on that.
No, I'm just saying, I wonder if he still transcends race and politics in the way he did in 2004.
Well, when you say transcend race, you don't mean ignore race. Just because you
transcend.
You know what transcend. In other words,
you're
people
above race.
went beyond that when considering beyond race, when considering whether or not this person should be elected president of the United States.
Absolutely.
That's a fact. The majority of the voters in this country look beyond race to elect him.
He did better across races in 2004 in the state of Illinois in the Democratic primary than he did in 2008 running for president, and certainly in 2012.
So what is the point? What is our point here?
He has been more racial as president of the United States than he ever was as a candidate or as a U.S. senator.
Well, he wasn't a U.S. senator very long.
Well, 4 years.
No, he was not.
He was elected in 2004, Charles.
But he was running for president by 2007 and was virtually
he didn't retire.
not.
He was still a U.S. senator. He was still
Yeah,
taking.
but come on.
He was still
But come
taking
on.
votes.
Let's be serious.
Okay,
Let's be serious.
But Lee Daniels, the butler.
What about
It was a movie.
Yes, I saw the movie.
You saw the movie?
Yes.
I saw the movie. We had very different reactions.
What was
is,
your-
is it because I'm a white guy and you're a black guy?
I don't know that. Well, what was your reaction to the film that was different than mine?
We talked about it. We
no, we
talked
didn't.
about it. Come
I
on.
don't remember the conversation, Jeff.
I said the problem with this movie, and nobody said this, is the guy who wrote it from history, from thinking, from experience, he didn't understand the joy. There was no joy in that movie. There was no joy to the civil rights movement. There was no joy to getting things
okay,
right.
I remember the conversation
And
now.
you said, Jeff, there was no joy.
There
I
was
said-
no
I said there
joy in the
was.
civil
There was
rights movement.
There was
No.
joy in the anti-war movement. There was
Joy in the anti-war
Yeah, because
movement?
the anti-war movement won.
Well, let's talk about the
Charles.
civil rights movement.
Okay, but they were.
But
they
there
were,
was
no, but
not
they were very
joy.
close together for a while.
There was not a feeling of joy. There was a feeling of fear. I can remember in 1968, after Dr. King was murdered,
Yeah.
I can remember I was living in Missouri,
Yeah.
and I can
Can't
remember
you?
my father
Yeah.
getting his shotgun and sitting by the door.
Oh, yeah.
And that was fear.
If you were in Chicago and you weren't at the
I
time,
rember
there
looking.
were blacks. There were blacks
Wait,
running down the Midway
and
Plaza.
you were there, right?
Yeah.
I remember.
And it
I
doesn't even matter,
remember
and I read history.
watching.
I read history.
I remember being scared to death seeing pictures of Emmett Till. That was not joy. I can remember.
There were some bad
I can
times.
remember seeing the dogs in Selma.
I have to interrupt.
I can remember.
We're running out of time.
Okay, but let me tell
just-
you this
You'll
before
have a
I
minute.
go.
You'll have a minute. I just want to say we're going to continue speaking this because this has been one of the best shows I've ever had. Thank you so much, Charles Thomas. All right, finish it up. We got about.
But I can remember
got
the
a minute.
fear.
Give it a big kick.
It was fear. I can remember the dogs. I can remember thinking.
You're watching the Illinois Channel, an independent nonprofit corporation formed to provide gavel-to-gavel coverage of Illinois state government and other public affairs events taking place across Illinois.